folks. Today we are going to go over the post-event funding forms for clubs. This form can be found at www.yfsclubs.ca. Under the Funding tab, under Post-Event Funding Application. If your event has already happened, you must fill out a post-event funding form. If you have previously filled out a pre-event funding form and wish to receive the remainder of the funding, you must also fill out a post-event funding form. When you have filled in this form, you must attach a scanned copy of all the receipts for the expenses that you have incurred. You must have all receipts in order to submit your post-event form, scanned into a single document. Your submission must be done within the same semester that the event happened, or you will miss out on the remainder of your funding. If you do not have access to a personal scanner, there is one available for club use in room 346 of the Student Center, the YFS Printing Resource Center. The YFS Clubs Committee meets to go over all funding applications. Meetings are several times per month and are the only time that club funding can be approved. You will receive a notice when your application has been approved by the committee. You are eligible to receive 40% of your approved funding up front when you submit a pre-event funding form. It is discouraged to use this post-event funding form to apply for 100% of your event costs, up to $800. Please plan ahead and use the club's pre-event funding application first in order to receive your first 40% of the funding. If your club was approved for $200 or less through the club funding application, you must submit receipts using the receipt submission option in the post-event funding application. Now, let's get to the form itself. We'll start by entering the date of submittance, your full name as a club executive, as only club executives can fill out this form, the club name with no acronyms, your club phone number, and email. Now enter the date and time that the event took place. Enter the event name as well as the location of the event. Next, describe how the event went. Fill in with as much detail as possible to assist when the club committee is assessing your application. How many York students attended? Please note, we are asking for York attendees, not overall attendees. Now on to the financial aspect of your event. What portion of funding are you applying for? The final 60% is for those clubs who have already gone through the pre-event funding application and have already applied for the first 40% of their funding. The full 100% option is for clubs that are filling out this form for the first time for their event. The receipt submission option, as explained before, is for if you are approved in a pre-event funding application for under $200 and you are merely submitting receipts. Next, enter any revenue you gained from the event. Did you sell tickets? Was there a cost of meals? Were donations made to the club or any other sources of funding? If there was no revenue for your event, write none here. Next, outline the expenses for your event. What were the costs incurred while planning and putting on the event that you are applying for? Now you must enter the balance difference. This is the difference between your expenses and your revenue from the event. The balance difference is how much you are applying for on your application. There is a maximum of $800 that can be given for any one event. But please note, this full amount is never guaranteed. In order to receive any funding, you must submit accurate and itemized scanned receipts. Please organize and scan all relevant event receipts into a single document and upload it directly on the application. Again, if you do not have access to a personal scanner, you may utilize a scanner specifically for clubs in room 346 of the Student Center, the YFS Printing Resource Center. If you are applying for relief funding through the post-event funding application, attach your relief funding letter here, explaining the loss that your club incurred during the event. Finally, you must agree to the club application declaration, stating that by submitting this online form, I agree that I have read the YFS club funding policy and have given complete and true information on this form. I understand that as a YFS recognized club, if the information on this application is found to be untrue or intentionally misrepresented, the club may be asked to repay the funds and can be put on probation. Be sure to familiarize yourself with our club funding policy found under the Club Info tab. The club funding policy can be found on our website as well as under the club ratification or renewal forms. Follow our policies as closely as possible and you should have no problems qualifying to have your funding approved. Again, the maximum that YFS can fund per event is $800, and this amount is not always guaranteed. That's it. After submitting your form, you will receive a notification that your submission has been received. In addition, you will receive an automatic confirmation email to the email that you listed in the form if it was submitted successfully. Please make sure to disable security protections when submitting the form. You will receive a notification of approval after the YFS Clubs Committee meeting that happens after you submit your application. In order to access this guaranteed funding, you must fill out this form in its entirety. Feel free to check out our other videos on pre-event funding and base funding for clubs. If you have any questions, contact your Vice President Operations at vpoperations@yfs.ca or your Clubs and Outreach Coordinator at clubs@yfs.ca. Also, be sure to follow us on social media so you can know what your students' union is up to.